Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Italian Vegan. As you know, I'm Luca, I'm your host, and today we're going to cook something a little bit fancy. It's one of those dishes that can be have a nice presentation as well as much as the taste. Obviously, that's the most important thing.
So Deborah says good morning,
good morning,
and
Deborah.
Catherine says good morning to everybody.
Good morning, Catherine, as well, and good morning, everyone else. There's a couple of new people that have booked to come on. I'm not quite sure if they're on yet or not, but for their benefits, let me just explain how things are going to.
Tanya.
Are going to go. So obviously I'm cooking live here and you will see me cooking live for you. But also this is meant to be an interactive event. So if you are cooking along with me, or even if you're not, please feel free to communicate with me either by unmuting yourself and speaking out, or you can type your questions in the chat box. In that case, Katerina, who's my beautiful cameraman, will read it out to me and I will answer you. I don't mind, you can interrupt as many times as you want, it's not a problem. If you are cooking along with me, I have sent an email out with a little preparation. I like to do everything straight away in front of you, so I haven't prepared anything, but I know that some people say sometimes I do things a little bit quickly. So if you want, you can prepare beforehand with the tips that I send you, so that you can just follow what I do a lot more easily.
Sue says good morning.
Good morning, Sue.
Hillary's just joined us.
Okay, fantastic. So it's nice to see you up and bright and early, especially Deborah. As you know, coming from Texas, where it's 6 o'clock in the morning. So good morning, Deborah. I don't know if you're awake enough to cook with us today, or if you're just watching, but it's nice to have you along with us anyway. Okay, so first of all, let's see what we'll need to cook this dish today. We'll need 1 pan of. I'm doing this dish for 2 people, so we won't need huge pans, but you need one pan sort of like this with a lid to cook the rice. Today we'll be using a slightly different technique from the normal way that we cook our risotto. So we'll cook the rice in a pan like this separately, and then we'll combine it with what we're cooking. Then we'll need a couple of frying pans. One to do the radish, and the other one to do our caramelized onions. Okay?
Deborah says just watching, husband and dog still sleeping.
Excellent. The dogs might wake up, with the smells of cooking, so it's better to leave sleeping dogs lie. Okay, we will need a lid for one of the pans. For another one, we don't need the lid, so I'm going to put this away. And then we go to the ingredients. Obviously, we're using caramelized onions, so we'll need quite a few onions. We'll need half an onion to begin with to cook with the radish. And then the rest I will just slice for the caramelized onions. We will need a radish. If you were lucky enough to find a nice round radish, that's great. I couldn't get any. I went everywhere. I couldn't get any, so I'm using these instead, which are very similar. And the important thing about the radish is the taste, because these are quite bitter, and there's a nice combination between the bitter of the radish and the sweetness of the caramelized onions. Okay, so we're using these radishes here. You can find the name. Sometimes you find it as radish. Sometimes you find it like this one, red chicory.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's pretty much the same thing.
I've got a message. Catherine says she could not find the red chicory. So what is she cooking with?
Okay, what are you using then? I say red chicory could be any vegetable that are bitter in taste will do for this dish. So if you don't find red chicory, you can find white chicory. That's always available. Another maybe vegetable that you could use could be okra. That's used often in Indian cooking, and that's quite bitter as well. So that could be used for this dish as well. But we use the red chicory as well to give color to the dish, apart from the taste.
She's using white chicory, and Hilary says she couldn't find any either, so I don't know what she's using.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, white chicory is perfectly fine. The only difference is the color, really.
Okay, Christine.
So, perfectly fine.
Let me read the messages. So, okay, as I said, Catherine's got ordinary chicory. Hilary couldn't find any, and Christine, she's also got chicory, but she couldn't find the red one.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so we need 2 frying pans, 1 pan for the rice, and then ideally for the caramelized onions, it would be good if we use the mandolin, also known as finger chopper, as I have tried on my own skin a couple of times. If you don't have it, don't worry. You can still use a knife, but it will take a bit longer to slice the onions.
Right. Sue said that she couldn't find any either, so she's not cooking today.
Okay. Yeah. No problem. No problem at all. The important thing is that you see the techniques and what we're trying to do, and then you can replicate it yourself. It's not a problem. Obviously, other ingredients are the risotto rice. I did put in the ingredients to use wholemeal risotto rice. Unfortunately, again, I couldn't get any. At the moment, we're quite limited with the supplies that we can get here in London. So I'm using normal white rice. It's the same. It's just a wholemeal rice. I prefer using wholemeal risotto if I can find it. But white risotto rice is fine as well. The wholemeal risotto will take a little bit longer to cook. So I will tell you later if you're using that, the quantities of water that you need to use. And the last ingredients will be some vegan Parmesan. This is the brand that I use, or any other. If you can't find this, another vegan cheese that it's aged. So you want it to be quite like a hard cheese, not soft like cheddar. Okay, so let's get started then. I'll start with an onion. Oh, let me get my little bin for the vegetables. Ready? And let's start chopping half an onion. So what I'll try and do today, we'll do all the preparation beforehand, because I've been criticized sometimes that I do things too quickly. So we'll do the preparation before we actually start the cooking. Okay, as this is not a dish that would take very long to cook. You should be able to get everything done in about generally once you've done all your preparation in about half an hour. Okay, so let me just do this, and I chop my onion just normally at the moment, just to as usual. You see me doing this several times, but this is how I do it. As you can see, it's still in one piece with my little tail. And then this way, it's already chopped in small pieces by the time you finish. Okay. Once I finish with this, I'll just put it in the okay. That's one thing done. And then now I'm going to clean all these onions to put them through the mandolin to have caramelized onions. Just remove the skin. In this case, I will cut the back of the onion as well, as I don't need that. Okay, now this is ready. And these I would keep in one piece because I would like to have nice brown slices for the caramelized onions.
Would you ever use onions and garlic together?
Sometimes, but not very often, because it's a different thing to the sauce. So I either generally, for most sauces, I either use onions or garlic. And when I use onions, obviously that's the onions are quite sweet, so they give like a sweeter taste to the sauce, where the garlic doesn't affect the sweetness of the sauce, so it's a little bit sharper generally. Okay, so I have that ready as well, and I'm starting to fry, as I always do when I'm doing onions.
Did we tell them the story of Francesco with that garlic in Italy? I'm
not quite sure if we ever came out, but there was I don't know if for those of you that know us, obviously we got now an 18-year-old child that has always been in love with garlic, to the point where he can easily eat it raw and also chew it raw. So, but the way it started was when he was must have been not even one, and we were cooking using this Annabelle Carmel recipe book, which is really good for children. And one of the recipe was, I don't know, I can't remember what it was now.
It was
something
rice,
like a risotto with mushrooms and garlic. And I think we got we might have got the recipe slightly wrong. So I need to adjust here the thickness of the slices. Okay, we should do. So start a little bit with my hands first, and then once it's comfortable, I will put the guard on. Yes, so when I got the quantities wrong, and it came out with an awful lot of garlic in this little dish. I think it might have had almost like a whole bowl of garlic in this little dish, and he absolutely loved it. And from then on, he's actually he's loved garlic ever since. And as you might know, garlic is really good for your health, especially for your cholesterol as well. So, if you can naturally eat it and even like it, it's fantastic. Okay, as you can see, really nice thin slices. And carry on with the rest. Until I have exhausted my onions.
Many ate it in Italy. I love garlic too, says Deborah.
Yeah. And I remember that my family in Italy, they wouldn't believe this story of this like young child that would eat like raw garlic, and they actually dared him to eat it in front of them. And as he was crunching onto, put the garlic in his mouth, and he started. And this was also homegrown garlic, so it was very, very strong. As he put the garlic in his mouth, and started crunching on it, everybody winced. They couldn't imagine that anybody could.
But the smell as well, it was really sort of powerful, wasn't it?
It did, yes. The smell was really, really strong.
Yeah. And Catherine says he will need a girlfriend that likes garlic too, which is very true.
That is true, but he can also eat dishes without garlic now, being he's a normal teenager, and he eats everything that comes in front of his mouth. So I think he can avoid eating garlic for one evening. He's actually, funny enough, now he's never really cooked, but since he's gone to university now, he's developed quite a love of cooking as well. and
sends us photographs when he's cooking. He's so proud.
He's obviously he's not vegan. Francesco is a meat eater, so he eats quite a lot of meat. But still, the fact that he's cooking his own meals is it's really good as well, because he knows what goes into the food that he eats. Who knows? Maybe later on he might become a plant eater as well. He does eat a lot of vegetables as well. It's not just meat, but he does like his meat. Okay. Oh gosh, I'm not really streaming. Okay, I can put this away now.
Okay, we've got a message from Deborah. That is great. You will always have cooking in common, which is lovely.
It's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really important.
So we got that. The onions are ready. These are the last thing that we'll do. So I'll start preparing now the radish. So I will cut it. Generally, this is the way I do it. I cut it in 4, and then slices along like this. I'll wash this in a second as well, so I'll just put it there for now. Actually, no. I got right in this. Okay.
What's the weather like in Texas, Deborah?
It's always hot in Texas, isn't it? Do you ever see any snow in Texas?
Cold. Okay.
Oh, wow.
How cold is that?
We have at the moment, I think the high temperature in London today, at least where we are, is 4 degrees centigrade.
Which is Fahrenheit?
I got no idea.
Yeah. Deborah said 35 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is.
35 degrees Fahrenheit is quite cold. It must be close to
is it?
Must be close to freezing as well.
Yeah.
I think it's 32 Fahrenheit. I think is the freezing temperature of water. If I'm not wrong.
Yes, 32 is freezing. Yeah. Okay, so it's close to that.
I think I remember now the formula. I think it's 5/9 of. Okay, I'm not going to attempt this. I'm not going to attempt this. But it was like to get Fahrenheit. I think it's like 9 divided by 5 multiplied by 9 plus 32. I think something along those lines.
We'll just pass on that
we'll
one,
pass
shall
on
we?
that, yes, exactly. Okay, so now that I've cut this, we can start cooking in a second. So yeah, I just wash it very quickly under cold water.
Oh my goodness. Sue says they've just got about, it's around 0 in Yorkshire.
Yeah, I think it's quite cold wherever you are at the moment.
Have you been affected by the floods or not? Same in Oxfordshire. We had some snow last night. Okay. Luckily, we haven't got any of that.
Okay. So let's start this cooking now. We've got most of the things ready. The only thing that's left is to now we'll weigh the risotto in a second, and it would be like grating a little bit of Parmesan cheese, but it's not a lot. So I'll do that in a minute. In the meantime, I'll get this going. Okay, so we put like maybe about 3 tablespoons of olive oil. And I start cooking the onions on a low heat. this will need, it's almost like stewing the onions and the radish. So it will be done. I will do it generally on a low heat, just a little bit.
And Sue says,
oh, sorry, the other ingredient which has been put away is, sorry, the other ingredient we will need is some soy sauce for the caramelized onions and some sea salt and just a little bit of pepper.
So Sue said that they had snow and flooding locally, but that's starting to go down, and luckily they're at the top of a hill.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
So Deborah says, got a message from Deborah. She's glad that you explained what radish is. Here they are small red balls about 1.5 inches round.
No, those are different. What you're talking about is the round radish, which is generally about this size. It's kind of like a salad, sort of like a iceberg lettuce in size.
We've got those little red ones here.
And those little radishes, it's a different. It's confusing sometimes, as they are called radish as well. But the one we're talking about is the round radish, which is like the size of an iceberg lettuce bunch. So it would be about this size. I mean, unfortunately, I couldn't find any, but that's the same family, the chicory, the red chicory. So we can use that one instead. Okay, now I'm just adding a little bit of salt to the onions. That generally helps them to soften them up. Okay, and I'll let this just turn it on a little bit, and then when I put the radish, I'll turn it right down. In the meantime, while that is going, let's measure the risotto. I'll take my scale out. Just move these out of the way. Okay. For this recipe, we're going to use 200 grams of rice. Oops, that was a bit too much. Okay, that's fine. 225 will do. And this is the rice that I'm using today. It's one of the two main types of readily available risotto rice. One of this is the cannaroli, which I like to use because it keeps more al dente, or the other one is arborio. You can use either one. For this, it's fine. Okay, so that's done. See, the onions now have started sizzling. So it's time now to, they're already changing color. Just going to add a few seconds, and then it's time to add the radish to it. Okay, there we are.
Deborah's asking if we're still on lockdown.
Yes, of course we are. Of course we are. It's worse than ever here. And they started the immunization now. They already managed to do about 4 million people, which is really good. but it hasn't had a big effect yet on the number of deaths every day. So that would take a little bit longer, but hopefully we're going in the right way, and maybe by Easter we'll be able to go back to a less restrictive life. Okay, so we got the radish there as well. Let's add a little bit more salt. And start getting your wine ready. Just any red wine will do. Not too. I've got some Cabernet Sauvignon here that we've been given as a present around Christmas. So I'll be using some of that. For the moment, let's warm the radish up a little bit, give him a chance to absorb some of the flavor from the onions and the olive oil. Okay. And once they've gone back to a high temperature and you can hear it from the noise of the oil. So once it's, because obviously we were cooking with the onions and it was very hot, and then we added all the radish and that cooled everything down. And now we will bring it back up to temperature before adding the red wine. Okay, let me get a glass. I'll add it in two bits. First of all, I've had possibly about a fingerful of wine. In a minute, I'll just give it another minute. First of all, I'll add kind of like a fingerful of wine, and I will let this evaporate, and then I will add some more, and we'll cover, and we let it gently stew. Okay, it's time for the wine. And as this cooks, you will see as well, become a lot redder in color as well as it absorbs the wine, and this is what will give the rice its color at the end. Okay.
Did your gran ever make wine?
No, thankfully not. Thankfully not, because most of the wine that came from that area is absolutely undrinkable. And I've grown up going to visit people that insisted on making you taste some of their homemade wine. And I've always been I remember the old time, trying to find a plant where to empty the glass because it was absolutely horrible. But I must say, they made a lovely vinegar. So we always have plenty of vinegar, but not a lot of nice drinkable wine. Although it was very, homemade, but it didn't make it any nicer.
Deborah said it already looks pretty.
It does, doesn't it? Okay, so we let it absorb the wine for a minute before we add the rest. Okay, and this is time now to start preparing our rice. Now, we cook this with a different method. So we just put the rice with cold water in a pan, and then we let it cook slowly. And when all the water is absorbed, then the rice will be ready. Now, the quantity is 1 part rice and 2 parts of water. So as I'm using 225 grams in there, I'll be using double that amount in water. So I put 450 grams of water in here. So I get my scales out again.
There's a message from Tanya. Just said, if you're trying to avoid wine, is there an alternative?
The wine will not. Yes, the alcohol in the wine will completely go. So don't worry about it. If you don't, I don't drink alcohol anymore either. Okay, so I'm still using it for cooking because it adds to the flavor. But don't worry because you won't be drinking any wine by using it. This unfortunately is one of those dishes that does need it. I mean, you can do it without the wine if you really, for religious reasons, you can't use any alcohol. But if it's just because you're not a wine drinker, don't worry because all the alcohol will be gone. You won't taste it at all. It's just the color that will be left really, and a little bit of flavor, but not the alcohol. Okay, so while this is going, I'll measure the water. So I'm using twice the amount of my rice. So I'll put 225 grams of rice. So I'll have 450 of water.
Shall we just have a look what you're doing?
Just added some water there. So I've got here, as you can see, just over 450 grams of water. You just add the rice in. I'll just spread it around a little bit. Right, I've got a little bit of radish in there as well. So I'll turn the heat on and I'll put it on a low heat. Because it does, we can pretty much forget about that and add some salt to the water.
How long does the rice take to cook?
The rice will take about 20 minutes to cook. Okay, so we are just a bit less than 1 teaspoon of salt. I will mix it in. And then find where I put my meat. Oh, there it is. So, and this one is covered, and we can forget about the rice, and we can concentrate on the rest of it. Okay, as you can see now, a lot of the vegetables are. I'll let you know the water go. I'll be using another. Actually, let's do it like this. Another half a glass of wine. Okay, I will put it in, and now I will cover it and let it stew until it's soft, which will take about 10-15 minutes. And once that is soft, we then put it in a bowl with a hand blender and blend it into a cream. Okay, so it doesn't really matter how you cut the thing. Just excuse me for a second. I dropped a few things on the floor, so before I put my feet on it, I'll just clean it up. Okay, so we got the rice going now. As you can see now, soon we'll come to the boil and we'll start. From boiling, it will take about 18 minutes to cook. This will be up to steaming, and in a moment we'll be doing the caramelized onions. Okay, so in a moment, when we got a little time to kill, I wanted to show you something. This is my new love. I've fallen in love with this. I have every week now, regularly, I make homemade bread, and this is the last one that I made. I actually had made 2 last weekend, and I froze one to cook later, and I think I did this on Thursday. And this is kind of like the way it looks. The way I like it, the traditional bread in Italy is to have a quite thick crust, so it's quite hard, as you can see, quite hard, but it's nice and spongy in the middle. But it's completely different from kind of like the sliced bread that you buy. And this is the base for the also homemade bruschetta, you know, which uses a really nice country bread, sort of like this one. And I know that when I make this bread, I tend to use too much of it, but I love it. So I tend to use it for breakfast and every now and again for a snack. As you can see, it's quite long. So making a sandwich with this is quite substantial.
Hilary says it looks great. Why don't you describe what you have for breakfast and how you make that bread? Because it's so nice.
Well, generally, I will do a couple of small slices, as you can imagine, like this. I won't do it now because this is actually it's come out a little bit too. There is a lot of air in the middle, so it actually it breaks when I cut a slice. It won't keep in one piece. But generally, I'll have a couple of slices, and you can see they're quite. It's big. It's a big loaf of bread. I mean, it was just to show you. I mean, I've eaten most of it now, but it was bigger than this cutting board. Okay, so I will have a couple of slices of this, and then whatever I got in the fridge. I generally like it with some vegan cheese, sort of like cheddar, because I like it melting, and then I like it usually, if I've got any in the fridge, to put mushrooms in it and a little bit of garlic and parsley. Okay, and then I obviously I close the sandwich and I put it in the pan to warm it up and to toast it, and it'll take about 10 minutes. I toast it on both sides, and then it's nice and really nice and crunchy with the melting cheese in the middle, and the heat obviously cooks the mushrooms as well, and it just and just delicious.
Deborah says crusty bread is fabulous.
Yeah,
totally agree. Yeah,
I can really smell now the aroma from the wine that we used. Okay, so shall we start with the caramelized onions now? So for that, we'll need some soy sauce, some olive oil, and a little sugar.
Deborah says now they are going to want to know how you make your bread.
I will do. I'll happily share it with you. Maybe the next time, what I'll do one step every week, because obviously the way I make bread takes a whole day. Not the whole day making the bread, but there's a lot of waiting time because I use mother yeast, which is lovely. Lives in the fridge, and then it comes out every week and refresh it. And just the refreshing of the yeast will take a few hours. In the meantime, I have to add flour, water, and a little honey to it, and then leave it to rise until it doubles in size. And once I got that, then I can start making the bread. And the bread again, I take the yeast. I will loosen it in some hot water with a what do you call it? With a whisk. And once it's all once it becomes like a soup, then I add the other ingredients, which are basically flour, whatever flour you're using, a little honey, again 1 teaspoon of honey, and one tablespoon of salt, and then you combine it all into a nice smooth bowl. It will take about, if you're doing it by hand, it takes about 15 minutes. Once you got that ready, then it all goes in a bowl and it goes somewhere warm. So generally the places where you can make the bread rise are either if you got an old style boiler, an airing cupboard, that's ideal, or otherwise you can put it in the oven with the oven off, obviously, but the light on. And the light of the oven is enough to raise the temperature a little to about 28, 29 degrees, and that will let the bread rise. And the bread needs to rise for, at least overnight. It would be best, but generally at least 8 hours. The more you keep it, the better it is. And once it's ready, then you work it a little bit more. You put it in the shape that you want. You give it another couple of hours to rise again, and then you put it in the oven for about 40 minutes. and I like to do it to have it crunchy on either side. So I would take it out halfway through and then on the other side, and then it's ready to enjoy. It's really a joyful experience every week to make this bread, and it's so different from the bread that you can buy, not just at the supermarket, but even in the bakery. Unless, the only ones that compare are, there's about 3 or 4 tablespoons of olive oil on there. The only one that compares are maybe some of the breads that the artisan bakeries do. But then it's not that easy to find them.
So nice with melted butter when it comes out of the oven.
Yeah.
And you slice it.
Katerina likes it with melted butter.
Oh,
I actually like it. I like it with just on its own when it's nice and warm, just with a little bit of cheese, and just eating it as it is. And it's so nice, so crunchy on the outside, soft in the middle, and still warm. So the cheese gently, it doesn't melt, but it softens up the cheese. Oh, it's beautiful. Okay, so let's let the oil warm up. In the meantime, the rice is starting to cook. Boil. You can see. Well, this is
that medium heat for the oil? Catherine's asking.
Yes, we want to fry these onions, so medium to high for the onions.
Just show. Just give that. That's
okay. This is what I've got. Obviously, if you're doing it with an electric hob, then it would take more. So I'll add generous few tablespoons of soy sauce, and I'll let you, once it's nice and hot, I will add the onions. I love the aromas when you're cooking, the things that waft from the pans that you're using. And this is absolutely beautiful. I mean, if you haven't tried it before, cooking vegetables with red wine is absolutely delicious. I demonstrated a few weeks ago the broccoli with in red wine, and those are really, really nice. And also, maybe I can show you next week, if you're interested, how we a really nice and simple way to cook asparagus with a little bit of white wine this time. But we had them actually last night, and were absolutely delicious when they.
Catherine says yes, please. And in case Tanya's wondering, you don't always cook with alcohol, do you? Just
no, we don't. No, we don't. Sorry, Tanya. So don't worry about that. It's just for some recipes.
But most of you don't.
Yeah, most of the time I don't. Yeah. Generally, in Italian cooking, alcohol is used what is called for sfumare, which just means like to smoke the vegetable. So if you're cooking something, whatever it is, and not just vegan or non-vegan, like you might saute the onions as we're doing now, and then you add a drop of wine and you let it evaporate, and then you carry on with the rest of your cooking. That's generally it's a technique that it's used to amalgamate all the flours that are in all the tastes they are in the pan, all the flavors. It's a generally cooking technique that's used a lot in Italian cooking, but you don't need to. I mean, in this case, we want the color from the wine more than anything else. A bit of the flavor, but because we're cooking something that needs to look good on the plate as well, and we want the red color from the wine.
Got a message from Deborah. She says, yes, it is. I have never cooked with wine before. I love the broccoli. I made it now she makes it almost every week.
Oh, fantastic.
That's wonderful.
Fantastic. Yeah, we love broccolis as well. I mean, often we just eat them. Katerina is a purist on broccoli, and she likes them plain. That's with a little bit,
yeah.
just cooked you know, simply cooked with a little bit of water in the pan. So they're almost like steamed. And then just a little bit of olive oil, and I will add some salt as well, because I like salt. But Katrina will just add it like that, a little olive oil. But I must say that the ones that you are referring to, the ones with the red wine, are absolutely delicious. And there's a little bit of cheese in that recipe as well, which adds to the flavour.
She says she likes it like that too, Deborah. I suppose you're referring to the simple dish with broccoli.
Yeah. I'll take a couple of these bigger bits of onions. I don't cut this very well, so I will actually eat that myself. Okay. You can see, show them the rice as well, as now it's starting to boil. You can see as it's starting to boil. You can just still leave it covered, unless you can get your heat low enough so that it starts pouring out, in which case you will just let some of the steam out. This is probably the healthier way of cooking rice. Okay, so this is pretty much. It doesn't take, because we cook them very, very thinly. It won't take. They don't take much to cook at all. I just remove some of the bigger pieces of onions that I haven't sliced. That ended up in there, not sliced thinly, because they won't look very good on the plate. So that's it. I just remove this. But the rest is pretty much ready. Okay. So now I can lower the flame, and I just add a couple of teaspoons of sugar. That's it. Give it a stir for a minute, and then caramelized onions are ready. You can give them you can taste them to see if you're happy, or if you would like to add any of the ingredients. I'm happy with these actually, so I'll let them in there to cook for another minute before turning off. You can see how they change the color, obviously, from the soy sauce that we use, and part of it is with the sugar that's gone in, as with the heat tea. You get that caramelizing effect.
So Catherine's asking where Maria is. She's with my dad today, Catherine. Thank you. She's just gone down to see him.
So yeah, she was quite upset to miss this.
Yeah.
This thing. I've made sure that she gets the video.
Yes, he's fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Happy in his new flat, so he's settled in extremely well, which is a relief. So it's all on one level. With his house, he had some stairs, so he's happy.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll just let this cook for another few seconds before turning off.
Yes, I suppose categorised as his carers, so we're able to visit him from because of that. He has got a carer, but Maria and I care for him as well, so that makes it easy.
Okay, so this is ready now, so I turn the heat off, and let's go and have a look at the radish now. If at any stage the radish dries up too much, then you can use a little hot water. Let it cook.
Now, would you put some salt in the hot water, or would you add that after?
Sorry.
If you added some
no,
water.
you add it after. Okay. So it's now soft enough. So turn the heat off under the radish, and I'll transfer it onto a glass so that I can blend it basically. Sorry, excuse me.
Christine's saying her stew is still quite liquid.
That's fine, Christine, because the juice will go into the blender and help with the meat. It will become all into a cream, so it's fine. As long as it's not really, if it's really a lot of liquid in there, then just carry on, keep cooking it for a little bit longer with the lid off. Okay, and that will reduce the amount of liquid in there, and then you can just blend it. Rice, as you can see, I don't know if you want to show them, the rice is almost absorbed all the water. Can you see?
Yeah.
Okay, so in another minute it will be ready, and we'll combine then this cream, which I'm going to blend in a second with this. I need to use a little hot water here. Mine is quite dry, so I just add a touch of hot water.
Can you just show how much before you do that? Just how liquid it is, just in case.
Well, mine was. I just added just a drop of hot water. Mine was very dry, so I just added a little bit. Okay. Just a little bit of liquid in there, but you can add a bit more if you want. As long as it's enough liquid to make it into a cream. Okay.
Catherine sent
As you can see, we've got quite a thick cream.
Yeah.
Okay, so blend it together. Now the rice. I don't know if Catherine, I don't know if you want to show them.
Yeah.
The rice is now cooked. As you can see, it's absorbed all the water, so we can turn the heat of the rice, and we can combine it with the blended radish.
Right, we have a message. Catherine said she'll be making the penne with smoked tofu this evening. Oh, yummy!
Oh, yummy! We actually had some orecchiette with that last night, with some smoked tofu and peas. Yeah, it was really lovely. It's one of my favorite dishes, and it's very, very simple, very nice and warming. Okay, so we got this ready. Now I just need to grate a little bit of Parmesan cheese. Obviously vegan Parmesan, as you can see. So I will grab a bowl. Not too much. We won't need too much cheese. But then I will use this as well at the end to slice some over the top. So some I will add to the rice, and some I will add directly on top of the dish. For this part, you don't need too much, probably about 30 grams for this quantity of rice. So it won't take me much longer to do that. And then we'll be ready to plate up. Okay, almost there.
I'll show you the quantity.
So not too much, so you can see.
How are the rabbits? Deborah's asking. Very greedy. We give them treats and then they keep pestering us for more and don't leave us alone. We have to sort of sometimes shut the door because we take the treats in we've got the garage attached to the house, and we leave the door open so they can run around. But sometimes they get a bit naughty and keep coming back, and you take them back in with their treat and then they come out again.
Yeah, and they keep giving us headbutts. That's the way of attracting our attention.
Or tugging at our trousers sometimes as well. So
has been known to happen, and the occasional, if we don't respond, the occasional little nip, gentle little nip to anything that's that they can get their teeth on. Might be our trousers, or might be the slippers, or they're really lovely. Okay.
So Deborah says it's cute, and Catherine says they know it's worked. Yes, we're too soft. We don't give in, do we? It's part of the effort.
Yeah, we do give in. Okay, so the risotto is ready. You may want to taste it, just to see if you need any. No, it's lovely. It's lovely as it is. Okay, so now let's go to plating up. Some more here. I should move that. Plate. So, as there's only the two of us here today, there will be 2 plates. Start with the caramelized onions. So we'll make a bed with this in the middle. Something like this. Okay. And always make sure that you got some from the top as well. So don't use them all like this. Let's make a bed for the rice. This dish looks particularly impressive if you do have one of the metal shapers to present the rice or pasta. In that case, you put the form in the middle, then you put the rice, and then you remove the form, and it keeps the shape. Okay, obviously we're not that fancy, so I don't have it with me. So you can have a similar effect by hand. So you want to put the rice on top so that you can still see the onions. That's one. So the other portion. There we are. This is my plate, obviously. I keep piling on the rice. Okay, so the risotto, and now we just add some little more caramelized onions on top. Like this. And then we'll get the cheese again, and we slice a bit. Gently slice a bit of cheese on the top. It's going to be everywhere. But you get the gist of it. If you want to be more precise, and you can do it on a plate and then add it on. I'm being a bit messy. Okay.
That's home cooking, isn't it? So.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's why I like doing everything from the start, and not just having everything prepared, but I want to show you how long it takes when you cook at home, because obviously there's nobody to prepare all the vegetables for you and all the things, you know. So I like to do it from start to finish, and so at least you get an idea what it's like when you do it yourself. Okay, so that's pretty much done. A couple more on here. And there we are. That's the final dish. Now, the radish is bitter, but when you cook it, it loses a lot of bitterness. So don't worry about it too much. Let's take some photos.
Deborah says it looks really good. Did you hear that?
Sorry?
Deborah says it looks really good.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much, and I hope you do it when you do it. It tastes good as well.
Catherine says quite generous portions. I agree with that.
But actually, the rice is not that much. It was only 225 grams of rice, and there's still quite a bit in the pan. So they're not. The portions are not that big. If you're eating that as your main meal, it's not such a big portion. I assure you. Okay. Let me take a couple of pictures. One of these, just so otherwise it feels left out. Okay. Now then we can, Katerina, if you'd like to come to the other side. I'll have the bigger portion if you don't mind.
I might mind.
As you always.
Thank you.
And let's go in for the
kill.
For the kill. For the tasting. Mm.
Mm.
This is lovely, and also so kind of like unusual, different from the way I normally cook.
It's lovely.
Because the difference between sweet and bitter.
Mm. The onions are delicious. Mm. So is the rice. So is everything really. It's absolutely amazing. And
also, this is if you're cooking risotto, this is a way of cooking it that doesn't mean that you have to be over stirring it for half an hour.
Mm. Oh, it's delicious.
Okay. Sorry,
this is going to last us 5 minutes when we come off, when it's all finished. It takes an hour to cook and 5 minutes to devour.
But it's so nice, it's so pleasant, and it's also it's kind of like it's nice and colourful as well for a dinner party.
I love the crunchiness of the onions in contrast to your the rice that you've cooked.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, I shall finish that after then. Let me just
Same here.
Okay. Got a comment from somebody that is, Hilary says, looks colourful. I wish I could finish what's left in the pan. Oh.
I must say, it's really nice. It's really nice, and it's so easy to use so many different vegetables, and there is a use for all of them. Sometimes we get to invent new things as well, because we get delivery every week of organic vegetables, and we don't never know what's in the box before it arrives. So sometimes it's things that we don't use very often, and it's nice to use new vegetables and find a nice and tasty way of cooking them all.
Right, Catherine says she'll try and make it next week. And Catherine wants to know who we order from. So it's Riverford.
Yes, we have Riverford for the vegetables. But if you're interested in cooking vegan, I can then send you a link to a vegan online supermarket where you can get everything, especially some. I've been quite frustrated lately because things that were available before in our local supermarkets haven't been available for a while. So, and I'm quite spontaneous with my cooking, so I don't like planning 2 weeks in advance to have to order everything in time for cooking. But I like to just turn up and buy the things that I need. But I might need to change the way I do things because I'm finding less and less available.
Okay, Christine says she's not vegan yet, but trying to eat more vegetarian food. So
that is great. That is great. Well, it's called a transitioning veggie. It's great. And you don't need me to tell you that the more vegetables you include in your life, the better your health is going to be. And there's a lot of there's one thing actually I wanted to mention. I don't often talk about the dietary benefits of this, but I don't know. There's often a lot. Sorry, excuse me. A lot of talk about proteins, and I think a lot of people think you need a lot of proteins to for our body to function properly. But if you look at a baby, which is the amount of when you need the most amount of proteins, when a baby is on his mother's milk, there's less than 2% protein in a mother's milk. So, and this is the amount of this is the time in our life when you need more proteins in our diet, when we're actively growing quickly. So most of your proteins you can get them in a vegan diet just by eating some particular vegetables, pulses, nuts. So there are plenty of ways of getting the proteins. And if you like for example, broccoli has a lot of proteins as well. It's one of the things that provides us with a lot of proteins. And we also drink aloe vera, and that's got a lot of vitamins and some proteins as well. So there's lots of goodness in the vegetables. And if I can give you just one tip, the greener a vegetable is, the better it is for you. So that's just, you can buy with your eyes as well. So spinach, broccoli, any very really green kale, pak choy, any really green vegetables are really good for you. So that's my health tip for the week. And before we go, I just wanted to see if anybody has any questions on what we've done today or on anything else. Katrina, if you can just distract your attention from your plate for a minute and read the questions, I'll be grateful.
Which good cause did we support this week?
This is something actually that I haven't done yet, but I think it will go to the same cause that we had last week. We wanted to pay electricity for hospitals in Tanzania, because often because people in there have to pay for their care, and often they don't have any money. And sometimes the hospitals are left in a position where they don't have enough money even to pay the electricity bill. And so they need that to carry on giving their service. And in particular time now, when the hospitals are under pressure because of COVID, it's important that we help them to keep going.
Okay, we have several messages.
Yeah.
From Christine, she says your classes have been very useful, because sometimes I have the impression to always eat the same when I eat vegetarian. So very good to have new ideas. So that's great. And Sue, about the cause, you've answered that. Deborah says, thank you so very much. And Catherine, thank you once more. See you next Saturday. And Sue says that sounds a good one with the cause that we're going to be supporting.
I just wanted to actually pick up. I don't know if it's Catherine that said that, you know, about always eating the same things when you eat vegetarian, and it's something that when, you know, I went through when I actually decided to go vegan. And often when you go out, you go into certain restaurants. Obviously, you want to eat with your friends, with your things. So obviously, if they're not vegan, you know, find a restaurant that's good for everybody. But often I've ended up in places they had absolutely nothing, or very, very little, apart from just a bland salad as the vegetarian option or the vegan option. And also there's the two like opposites, where you get sometimes where there's absolutely nothing that's vegan, or you go into places where they got all these like weird and wonderful things, you know, and they think that just because you're vegan, you'll be eating quinoa every day, or any amaranth or anything, and which are things that are good for you. But also there are so many recipes from Italian, from French, from Indian cuisine. They are just naturally vegan, so you don't need to reinvent the wheel. But you just need somebody like me that shows you, look, you can do this. You can do this today, or you can do that with asparagus. You can do that with another vegetable, and that's all you need, a little bit of knowledge and guidance.
And there's a question from Deborah. She wondered what event prompted you to become a vegan.
It's been a gradual thing, I must say, because it's when about 3 years ago, I went to see a practitioner, a health practitioner, because I was having a few problems, and she told me to stop eating cheese, basically cheese, milk, all the products of milk, and also to stop eating red meat, which I was already not eating very much. So and also gluten. So I've been for about like 3 years. I've been like cheese and milk free, gluten free, and without eating meat. But I've never eaten a lot of meat, and just before, the year before turning vegan, I was just eating a little bit of fish every now and again, and I haven't really missed it. Then when I made the jump and saying, I want to go vegan, because obviously the milk and cheese I was already avoiding, and the meat I was avoiding anyway. So the only difference was not to eat fish. Which I've done happily, and haven't really looked back since. I haven't not really missing any of the foods they had before. I must be honest. Sometimes I do miss the cheese, because the texture, although the vegan cheese is getting better and better, the texture is not quite the same. But still, if I miss it, it's one little thing to give up is no problem for me.
That's it.
Okay. So I'll look forward to seeing you all next week. As I mentioned before, I would cook the asparagus for you, but I haven't thought of a main course yet. So I will post that probably tomorrow evening. So at least you got a few days to get your ingredients before next week's class. So enjoy yourself. Go and cook lots of things, and I look forward to seeing you next week.
Catherine says bye, everyone.
Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you. That's from Sue. See you next week.
Okay.
Bye from Deborah.
Katrina's making the actions as well. That's it. Bye. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, and let's see you next week. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.